Okay, so thank you all for joining me today because I wanted to have this conversation and I wanted the whole world to see it because it's a really important conversation to have. So, for anyone watching, we're going to be talking about gender. We're going to be talking about males and females and two spirits and non-binary people, but also in the healing space. So, we're going to talk about retreats, um, classes, experiences where we go in to do deep, vulnerable spiritual work and healing work as divine feminine beings, because I want you all to speak from your perspective, but also I want to give the perspective of the male, even though I identify as somewhere in between there. I know that I'm in a male body, so I want to hold that perspective as well. And we want to talk about safety and um, pushing through triggers and knowing when to trust yourself and honoring the experiences that we have had in life when it comes to men. So, we're going to be talking about the divine masculine and the divine feminine and how they interweave together and how beautifully they dance together when it's in harmony and when it's clear, and how a program I feel is running in the collective. And again, if anything comes up you all don't agree with, let me know. Let's have a dialogue about it. It's all welcome here. And I feel that there is a program running in the collective that is specifically designed to keep us separated. It's almost as if there's these entities that may not be human that possess or mind control us to do things that we wouldn't naturally do. And so we are actually turning our fear is of each other rather than of the actual predator, as they called it in the Carlos Castaneda books, the predator or the reptilians or whatever you want to call it. Okay. The powers that be. But it feels like there's a program running where, as this feminine energy is rising on the planet, it's the program lives around how, yes, there was a stifling of feminine energy for so long during the patriarchy. But now that it's rising again, there's these dark forces that are also rising within that are trying to keep the separation going by turning it into triggers. And it's real triggers for us. These are real experiences that have happened. It's not like we've made it up. So, Kendra, why don't you introduce yourself? Because I know everybody in the Ascended Collective knows who I am.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm Kendra Lenore, and I have been on a healing journey and done a lot of different healing ceremonies and experiences and retreats over the past 5 years. And most of them have been with women, but I have done some with men. And I had a lot of wounds to heal around men and beds and all of that world. And and a lot of fear of men. So, I mean, yeah, I love this topic. I've talked about it a lot at different retreats. And I know my own perspective. I've heard a lot of other perspectives, and I'm so curious about it. My dream is the masculine and feminine combined. I think that's where the real magic is going to happen.
Yeah.
I think there's probably some transition happening right now.
I think all three of us are on board with that. I mean, it sounds good in principle, and we know that's the direction it should go. But then as soon as you decide, I'm going to go to a retreat and strip it all bare for the medicine and, and to really move through something, then if a guy is coming to that retreat, our nervous system says, I don't care what sounds good, okay? This doesn't feel right or this doesn't feel safe, okay? And so, Nicole, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
So, hello, I am Nicole Rivera, and I have been on a spiritual journey for my whole life. Is that Pisces vibe? But really, really,
Both of you,
um,
actually. Kendra's birthday's on March 3rd.
oh, nice, nice. I'm the
So I
fifth,
was like,
Fifth.
but
let's bring this together.
yeah. So, but awakening from, religious versions of spirituality, probably about 8 years ago or so. And during that time, I have studied a lot, done a lot, seen a lot. What I have not done is intimate spiritual experiences with men. So I have done, I've done a couple of retreats, plant medicine retreats, private, personal retreats with friends and all that. Always has been only women. And even the retreat that I went to with Chrys, it just happened to be only women. And yes, I know Chrys is a male, um, but he's got that two spirit energy that doesn't trigger in the same way, doesn't feel threatening in the same way, even though it does translate with that masculine feeling of safety.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as I was saying just now, like kind of thinking about my experiences, I remembered last year I had a friend who was holding a Wachuma ceremony at her home. And the person who was going to be facilitating it with her was a male. And I opted out. There were other reasons, but that was definitely like the primary reason.
Yeah.
I no thanks is how I felt. So, I mean, I could
And we will go into that a little bit if it's okay. Is there anything off the table before I go further?
Not for me.
Okay. So, Nicole, we had an exchange yesterday where you were interested in a retreat that I have coming up, but hesitant about it once you saw that a guy would be there. And it takes me so much to get guys to come into these experiences. And, when I find these safe, grounded, masculine energies, it they're even harder to find. So I felt like, hold on, I protect you, of course, but I understand your side of it. And we talked it out and we moved through triggers. We were we're very vulnerable with each other about our own process with men because I was sexually abused and physically and mentally and verbally abused by my father for years. I wasn't sexually abused by him, but for years my physical body wasn't safe around men. Boys at school, bullies, dad, two older brothers. There was something always there when it came to men, and it was during plant medicine experiences where most most of them heterosexual men actually held me and made me feel safe is when it healed. So from my experience, that was the same thing that happened with Kendra. 2.5 years ago, I had a retreat, and there was a guy there who is a healer, and he, makes his own medicine. Wasn't like I found him at Walmart. So, and not that anything's wrong with Walmart, but I think we can agree that, there's not always the safest masculine energy up at the checkout at Walmart. He came in with so much history and groundedness and good intention that I felt safe with you being there. But Kendra had hesitancy, especially things that we had talked about in sessions that she's had with me that have come up in her life and in relationships she's been in. I get it. There's a lack of safety. And I remember her being so hesitant, but I also remember the moment. And yes, you were in the middle of your medicine journey, and the medicine does help, especially when your heart is so open like that, that you went up to him and embraced him and thanked him for being there. And you have to understand, he was he held back. He would have loved to embrace you more had he not, had his wife not been like, don't let these women be all over you. Because, a safe masculine in the space, all these women who are constantly battling toxic masculine energies are going to see that and be like, oh, we love that. So it could have even been a bigger experience had he not had anything stopping him, his wife in the back of his head saying, don't, don't be all over them. Don't let them be all over you. And that was her own issue she needed to work through. And he was honoring that even in that moment by letting the whole experience happen. And it was really beautiful to see you like lighten up, your whole energy lightened. And it was like you just released something in 30 seconds that had been there for so long. And so I want you to share a little bit more about that experience. And Nicole, that relates to this experience because I said, what if you can have the same experience Kendra had? What if men can be safe? Not all of them, just like not all women, not all two spirits, not all anything is one thing. So, is it possible that we can let these men into our space and let them heal and become the men we want them to become and the masculine energy we want them to become? What if you all carry medicine for them as well and they can't even receive it because you won't enter their energetic space? Don't you see how I'm just, I know what's happening in the world. The beings that are in control are turning us against each other using very clever subconscious, using our trauma. If we make the men unsafe, they'll be the ones that the women are all afraid of. So they'll fawn for them and they'll be afraid to actually be in their space and in their power. And it will be a cycle that goes on for thousands of years. And here we are. So
Mhm.
I'm like, we're code breakers on this call. We're all the three of us are healers and psychics and mystics. We see beyond that. And so our journey will take us to the places that the other people turn back around. And Nicole, you may have turned back around, but you also kept looking back at me and going, "Are you, should I be turning around? No, I shouldn't. No, I should. I should, right? You should support me in turning around." And I'm like, "No, I shouldn't." And you're like, "Okay, well, I'm interested in your perspective." And that was the key, that you were interested in hearing what I had to say. And we moved through it so beautifully. So, Kendra, share your experience. And then, Nicole, based on her experience, I want you to share. And it's okay if you all share your negative experiences around the male and the masculine energy. It's important that people hear that we have had those negative experiences. So we're coming into connection and empathy and acceptance of them from a place of we had to heal the wound first. That's different than men have always been great to me. Why are you upset? I get you all deeply. So Kendra, please share whatever
Yeah.
feels right for you.
Yeah, so I went into that retreat with the intention of working on this fear of men before I knew who was going or anything.
Oh, I forgot about that. See,
Yeah.
I told Nicole yesterday the medicines are so our higher selves too, but the container and the medicines are so intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
And
It
they
was,
make you think it's an accident as it's happening.
yeah.
It's just a coincidence that he's here, and that's what I want to work on. So I think that's a beautiful place to start because it just shows that, of course, it went well because the medicine pulled you into it. The medicine would never pull you into the hell that sometimes the medicine can take you to if there wasn't nuggets of gold down there. It never is an accident. It's never, I fell into the dark realms. I fell into an old memory I shouldn't be remembering. There's purpose to it.
hmm Yeah, but even so I knew that, was the intention. That and the bed thing were like my two things during that retreat. And then I saw who was going, and we had talked about it, ahead of time. And then I can't remember how I found out that there was a male that was going to be there, but it was before I got there. And I remember talking to you about it and expressing hesitancy. And then I cyber stalked him. I figured out who he was. I think we had a pre-call and I looked up every picture I could find of him so I could see if he was a scary one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for him, he had some photos online that didn't make him look super.
Yes, he's got tattoos all over. He's a redneck guy from outside of Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from. See, he is exactly like every guy in my family, the safe ones and the ones in prison, which even the one in prison is so safe. You all would feel so safe with him. So
You
there was
can't.
this outer thing that was happening, of course, but I understand, is my point, why you felt that way.
Yeah.
I mean, he
And
didn't
I,
look like a guy from Mount Shasta. He looked like he was from Kentucky.
yeah. Yeah. And then I made myself more scared actually through that process. And then but I just knew I was supposed to go on this retreat. So I moved forward. I got there a day late. Maybe it's related to that resistance.
I was so proud of you too because I thought she could turn around at any time. And she just kept waiting at the airport, kept every hurdle, she kept going, but I think this is trying to make me push past it. And I was like, wow, I don't even have to convince you of that. That was also a key that I didn't have to convince you all of anything.
Yeah.
You were like, I don't
It
know if I
wouldn't have
should
worked
walk forward,
well.
but you wanted to.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked well because that pressure of that would have been a red flag to me, like someone's trying to, but so it needed to be
Right.
on my terms.
Right.
And just before that, though, what's interesting about me is I had been on other retreats or ceremony and in ceremonies and wished there were men there. So it was this weird dynamic where I knew there was an issue there that I wanted to heal, but I wasn't quite ready for it. And then this was I mean, actually doing the retreat with Chrys as the leader, because I actually do see you as a man. I know you have the dual, but I was like, oh, this will be great. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to go on the retreat with this healing this fear. So then when the other person was added, it was this little wrench in my plan that I had been trying to control. Um, and yeah, I didn't really, and then immediately, I mean, you could just tell in his energy that he was a safe man, immediately upon arriving with saying very little. So I was just like, oh, feels so good. In fact, there were some women in the group that were more challenging for me. So, that was interesting too. And I remember going up to him and saying, I can't stay long. I didn't know I didn't know he had limits, so maybe this is what I was feeling, but I was
That's
like,
what you were feeling was he was told explicitly, don't let them be all over you. She had insecurities that were showing up. He was bringing her stuff into Journey as well. But
Mhm.
also, if I were her, I would be a little worried too, because they're a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not all like him.
Yeah.
So
No. And that none of that was on my mind, but I was just like, I can't stay long, but I want to tell you, I'm glad you're here. And gave him a hug. And then that was pretty much our whole interaction.
yeah, and that really he needed that because that let him know that he was safe to work with women, that it was even possible to open his energy to working with women,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is huge.
So, and then after that, just being in his energy, gave me I had never met a man like him before. So that night I didn't talk to him much, but then, over the next days I did a little bit more. But just feeling him, I had never been around a man like that in my entire life. I don't think there were safe men in my life
Yeah,
until recently. And that gave me a little North Star of what to look for in relationships. And it was a feeling, not, that you can't describe.
yeah,
And now I'm in a relationship with someone that's got a similar energy. So, and then also I just want to add working with Chrys was another big piece of this fear with men. Um, and because I spent the rest of the journey down in my bedroom trying to deal with that whole thing. And you, Chrys, coming and just being like, is it okay if I come in the room? Like, just so respectful, protecting me when there was some stuff going on that made me feel uncomfortable elsewhere.
yeah,
So I just felt super safe with these two men, super safe in my most vulnerable. I mean, plant medicine and the most intense plant medicine that I had ever worked with, and in a bed, and with these two men, and it helped having Drew there too, because
yeah.
she, my little mama bear. And so yeah, it was amazing. Like the experience really helped me. Like I kept telling everyone it changed my life, really. I mean, I didn't think I would ever overcome that. I didn't understand where this fear came from. I think some of it was due to my trauma, but some of it I think was a program or inherited.
Ancestral, yes, very much
Yeah.
so.
I think it was a little bit of both for
Yep.
me.
hmm It
And
was for me
then
as well.
yeah, so it was like the trauma reinforced the program, basically.
Yes, totally. And that's what it does. That's why the trauma even happens at times, is that when they say you attract it, it's not your fault, but we are attracting onto the subconscious programming. And that's why they embed all that trauma and programming in there so that we create that reality for ourselves. And it's not our fault. We didn't always choose it. We came into a body. My dad was beaten as a child by his stepfather and left by his biological father at 5 years old. That lives in my body. So then when he did it to me, all he was doing was reaching in and to an iPhone and finding an app and opening it. It was already ready to go. It just needed to be opened or it needed to be downloaded again from the cloud. And it totally was. So I, the feeling of being unsafe with the masculine, I couldn't even look at men in their eyes. It was just not safe. Just men in the space. I was all at a party, at work. If I got to know them, it was okay. But usually, if there was a group of guys, you wouldn't find me over there. I was with all the ladies because I felt more like them and I also felt safe. So I have also been on the receiving end of really unsafe feminine energy in the past 5 years that I never had to deal with until I became a healer and started doing this work. And I can tell you, I have experienced 10 times as much manipulative, dark, feminine, unsafe female energy than I ever have any of the males that have come in, any, even if they've been a little cuckoo or, and I don't even want to say it like that, but like quirky, that's what I mean. Been a little quirky, may not have been in alignment with the work that I do. There was never, I, it really, because I used to idolize women. I told Nicole yesterday, I put you all on pedestals. I thought women were the best thing that ever happened. I was such a feminist.
Mhm.
I, it always does.
Confirmation.
I'm
Sorry.
like, it says you, Kendra and Nicole. I'm like, thank you. You could have used that 35 minutes ago. Okay. Um, but it was a beautiful experience for me when I had a retreat one time, years ago, and one of the facilitators, who is a very masculine man with a beard and all of that, came and held me and asked to cuddle me and um, told me that I'm a beautiful person and that I'm beautiful and all these things during my journey. And I told Nicole yesterday, I went at the end of that night. I was washing my hands after using the restroom and I looked in the mirror and I saw myself as attractive for the first time in my entire life. It was a feeling. It's not something I can reproduce what that aha moment was, where this looks exactly like how I see myself every day, but it feels different. That is only medicine and certain things like that can rewire something like that quickly in one night. And then I opened the door and walked out of the bathroom, and a facilitator friend of mine who was also journeying that night, because this was like 5 years ago, she was walking by in the hallway and she saw me and she goes, "Oh my goodness." I said, "What?" She said, "You look so fine and masculine and sexy right now." And I just thought, how is this happening? This medicine stuff is incredible. Like, I know it is. I do medicine for people, but being in it, I was like, this is incredible. I got instant validation that not only the medicine worked, but that something shifted in me. And my relationship with men after that completely shifted. And then I worked with Wachuma several times where he came through and really locked in some masculine codes for me. And I needed those experiences because sometimes I think I've gone through experiences just to make you all feel safe. It's almost like it wasn't even totally for me. It was so that I knew your experience. Just like yesterday, Nicole, you mentioned your cycle and you were a little bit more graphic than that. And she said, "I'm sorry if this gives you the heebie-jeebies." I was like, "Are you kidding me? I've been talking about periods and bleeds and tampons, and that was my life since the time I was in elementary school growing up, being around all the girls talking about how they got their period, and I was there at the table." Okay. It was all talked about around me and to me. And so I understand your all's system and the way it works and all the women stuff and what you all feel like when you walk into a room with certain clothes on or whether you have your makeup on or whether you're, I know all of those things because of how close I've been with you all and how many women have been in my life who have let me into their experience as if I was a woman. Okay. It wasn't until I became a facilitator did people really start seeing me as a man that needs to um, not be this wild feminine energy. have a hard time with someone who has both. And we weren't raised with that. Our society didn't have the two spirit energy as part of our tribe, where it was a revered, respected, and expected almost place within society where someone was um, trained and nurtured into the role of being a shaman or a healer and a mediator between the masculine and feminine energies in the tribe. You all didn't have that. So I understand it's hard to see this fully for what it is. Because when someone says, "Oh, I see you as a man," that doesn't feel right to me. And when someone says, "Oh, I see you as just one of my girlfriends," that doesn't feel right to me. And I used to think, "Is nothing ever good enough, Christopher?" But it's a feeling like when women would say ma'am to me when they would give me my change at a checkout and they would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir." I would think there's a reason they're doing that. And this is long time ago when I was much younger. And I also liked it when they called me ma'am and not sir. But when if you said she and not he, that doesn't feel it's weird. So I have to navigate that for myself. But because of that weird experience, I mean, I was dressing in women's clothes when I was 2 or 3 years old. Not because it was for a woman, but because I liked all those things. There are little boys who just like Power Rangers. I liked Power Rangers and Barbies. Didn't only like Barbies. It was that dual thing was there from the very beginning. And so it gives me a different perspective because I told Nicole yesterday, I said, it's interesting that you find me so safe because the safest part of me is the masculine part of me. It's the most grounded part of me. It's the part of me that will hold you because the ayahuasca in me may not look so safe to you sometimes. Even though you are safe, even if I do turn into a storm, you're not going to blow away. I would never intentionally do that, but I have that fierce feminine ferocious life-giving energy in me as well, where many men don't express that. Okay, they really are just trees. Okay, I'm the storm and the tree. So Wachuma really helped me lock in. He would always say to me, "Be the tree, not the storm," because I needed to lock in that solidity so that you all did feel even more safe in my energy. But that was a whole masculine thing I had with the grandfather cactus. That wasn't a divine feminine experience that I had with grandmother or Auntie Lotus or Mama Cacao. So I thought if the masculine can be this safe, can't we let other people in so that they can become that safe or they can show us that they are that safe? So, Nicole, I want you to share a little bit about yesterday, go through it however much you feel like sharing, but from the moment of, I want to go to this retreat, and then seeing that comment and just all of those, that whole process we go through, because you did an incredible job at letting it heal rather than holding so strongly to, you're a man, there's no such thing as dual gender, you're a man who's mansplaining at me, and you don't see my divine feminine side. That's the dark feminine's tactic to manipulate all energies, not just masculine energies. And I didn't expect that from you, but many have done that. And I watched someone in their power fully move through the trigger so beautifully. So I want you to share about it from your end.
Yeah, first of all, I don't, I specifically have the intention and I really try to not just approach anything from the mind. So I trust the energy and I trust the energy that I feel off of people. And that includes, my experiences with you. So I could approach something from the mind and mentally be like, well, I know you're an XY chromosome individual
Right,
and
right.
blah, 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 blah. But that's not the feel. So that allows me to have that level of trust with you. But as far as what transpired with the retreat, I, as these things happen, I had not been really paying a lot of attention to it until I was. And I just got this urge, like,
I
I
know
think I
exactly
need,
what you're talking about.
yeah, like I've seen the emails come in for a while that you've been, announcing the retreat. And yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it was just like, and of course, it was the spring equinox yesterday and the start of a new cycle for me. And I wasn't doing it on purpose, like, oh, this is the day because of that. But it just happened to be like, I think I need to go to one of these. So I started looking and really was interested, or am interested in the retreat that you have coming up in May in Sedona. And normally I would not even ask like who's going to be there. The last retreat that I went to,
I
it
found that
didn't,
interesting. I did find that interesting. I was like, she's checking in with who's here, and there's a guy coming
yeah,
who isn't me. So again, like Kendra, you all are psychic, both of you Pisces sun. It was as if you all knew, so your ego got a whiff of what was coming and tried to protect you all, but also that just let you in on the trigger faster, which you all needed, so that you all could make a really strong choice. Like Kendra chose to come. It wasn't
yeah,
I paid, so I got to go. Like she said, no, I'm going to try this because I trust Chrys and we'll see. That was a big choice. So the psychic abilities help us sometimes, but they give you all the, sometimes we don't want to see what's going on inside the blinds in other people's houses. So us mystics and people who have strong psychic abilities, we get triggered even earlier, or we get let in on those things. And so it feels like I told you yesterday, the higher selves were orchestrating the entire experience. Whether you came to the retreat or not, the moment we had yesterday was just like such a pivot. And it felt really good for me because you held my experience too and allowed me to safeguard the masculine without thinking I was abandoning the feminine. That was
absolutely.
beautiful for me as well. So thank you and continue.
Yeah. So even in that, as soon as, you and I started talking when you reached out to me, I knew that there was something there. And when I saw, first of all, let me back up. When I saw who you said was coming, and you mentioned, the gentleman, his name, and you said, he was on my podcast a couple months back, and I immediately went to do the same thing that Kendra described. Like, who is this? Let me find him. I gotta look in his eyes. Let me see what's going on here. Let me see how I feel about his energy. And I couldn't find him. So, and I looked, like, I searched by name on YouTube and stuff, like, who is this? So I was like, okay. And then I had seen the message from you, and you asked me, um, I don't remember exactly how the messaging went, but basically I expressed my hesitance with attending due to, a male being there, and you asked me essentially what that was bringing up for me. And even in you asking me that, I started getting tearful. And I know like you weren't there to know that, but even in me, like trying to sit here and formulate a response on my phone, I was getting so triggered. And I knew this, it's like the gift and the curse, right? Because when you're being triggered like that, that's where the medicine is. Like, okay, this is the juice
But
right
it also
here.
sucks.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
also is like, I don't want to feel like this right now.
exactly, exactly. And it's like, I hate that this is all coming up, but I know it's coming up for a reason, which ironically just further confirmed for me the alignment of this experience, because I know that I have to go where I'm being stretched. And that's what I thought to myself, like, this is the stretch right here.
Yeah.
This is the stretch. And so, I was reflecting on so many experiences. And for me, it hasn't so much been a fear of men per se. I had abandonment in my life from literally birth, from, my father. I had my grandfather, who I was extremely close to, who did represent that safe masculine, who died when I was 15. That was really difficult. I had a cousin who was like an older brother who was also very safe for me, who he was 2 years older than me, and he died when I was 15. He was 17. And so for me, that set this trajectory of abandonment. And then also have whatever, a lot of issues with trusting the masculine, trusting that they will be that they will be safe, right? Because even if someone is safe, if they're safe and then they're gone, then the mind equivalates it. I don't know if that's a word, but the mind feels unsafe, makes that unsafe because you were here and now you're not. And
Right.
then on top of that, I have this experience growing up of being teased by males my whole childhood.
Mm.
And
Me
one
too.
of the things that yeah,
That we, our experiences are very different, but that was girls. Sometimes there were girls that would say things. I mean, all kids are mean in certain respects. Not all kids, but kids can be mean in certain respects. But it was the boys in the class, in the neighborhood. They were the ones who um, wouldn't leave me alone or made me feel unsafe because something was always going to be said. My nervous system was always going to be triggered. I was going to be called a name. I was going to be aggressed physically. That's the thing is I felt like a girl who was constantly being beat up by guys because they didn't understand why I didn't want to fight, why I didn't want to wrestle. I didn't want to do any of those things. Okay. No physical contact like that. Beating and touching and slapping. So just even in that, it was as if you all were stuck in a male body growing up just to get the perspective and always feeling like I have to let them do that because I can't say, "Oh, you hit a girl," even though that's how I felt.
Mhm.
So, I'm hearing you on that. It was growing up for whatever reason, our experience was it was the masculine energies, it was the boys, and that lays a whole groundwork for what's to come. I
yeah,
know on my end it was part of my code, and that's why I incarnated into this family line was specifically to clear the man thing and there's a whole story around that. And I'm working through that. And so I'm sure that's what attracted all of that into it so that it could all be cleared one day, all together like a big pimple that you're popping. But during, it just felt like that's how guys are. Okay. When men would have an opinion on something, I would say that they were mansplaining. I became the dark feminine you all, not you too, but I stepped into the role of feminist, women should rule the world, men are idiots. And that was just what felt safe for me too. I didn't realize that I was being just as I felt like I was being the cool, um, I was being a cool bigot. It's like I'm discriminating, but not really because it's cool to discriminate against men now. So we can do that. You know what I mean? Like I can say men are idiots, and that's okay because all of us women can get together and go, they're so stupid, and they're so we can powwow about it. That's how I felt. That's how I operated, and it was through my healing journey that I was like, ooh, I'm abandoning such a large part of myself. I had to reclaim that. And Nicole, it feels like for you, just because you're in a female body, there's still that reclamation that has to happen, and that um, for you ladies, there's also the sexual aspect, and how men can be in regard to you all. You all feel like you have to put on all this makeup and present yourself a certain way, but yet you all actually want to hide and have them not see that sometimes. So there's all these mixed messages for young girls that show up in our life as well. So continue sharing if you feel called.
Yeah. And to that, I think it's for me anyway, and I'm sure many others, it's a vulnerability issue in that it has not felt safe to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So where I had my experiences of, like I said, like my whole childhood being teased by males, and not just my childhood, because when you were talking, I actually like had this memory come up of a coworker 4 years ago when I worked in the hospital. I'm a nurse. I don't do hospital work anymore, but a coworker in the hospital actually making rude comments about my physical appearance at 37. So I'm 37 years old, and it still brought back this trauma of being a little girl and being told that basically you're not good enough, that you're ugly, that there's something wrong with you, that why do you sound like that? Why do you look like that? You know? And there is a power that the masculine has over women. And we can sit up and say, no one has power over you and blah, blah,
Let's
blah, blah.
just
Yeah.
let's just say that no one has power over you, but in the collective right now, in the matrix, the patriarchal program is designed to at least give off the illusion that everyone's believing in, which is creating it as a reality, it's making it real, is there's a hierarchy and that the male is above.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
you abide by that or not, and we can say we don't, us divine feminine beings, we're like, we're powerful women. Well, we're acting so powerful and enraged like that because we're trying to take our power back, not because we've taken it back fully. So, this is what it looks like on our way to sovereignty and 5D unity is us getting all this out and it being messy sometimes and trying to trust someone and they weren't trustworthy, but trying again and then they prove you wrong. What would it feel like to both of you to have, and Kendra, I know you know what it feels like now, but what would it feel like to have a man hold you and they are heterosexual? By all means, in another timeline, maybe you all would be attracted to each other, but you don't feel any sexual energy and you feel like they're a brother. What would that feel like to you all? They're holding you, they love you, but you don't feel any sexual energy. You don't feel unsafe. You don't feel objectified. You just feel seen and held.
I mean, that would be amazing. I'm hoping to feel that tomorrow.
Oh, yes, I would love that as well because I ask myself that all the time is that's the energy I want in a relationship too. But it's important to have non-romantic connections. We live in such a time where, I mean, men can't even be friends with women because something might happen. That feels very 3D to me. That feels very like the masculine doesn't have control over its urges and sexuality. I mean, they're even women too. Women act like they're not the aggressor, but that's why they play the little white squirrel that hops through the trees and is like, "Don't chase me, don't chase me." It's to get it to happen. Okay, it's part of the dance. So I keep seeing that cartoon with the skunks, and one of them's all white, and she's like trying to hide from the guy skunk, and he's chasing after her, but she's sort of seducing him. So we've got this uh, program running here, and I have been in this space and been one of them, but I have been in this space with guys and men who you just felt like you were related to them or that they were your brother or their soul family, and it really hits different. I'd like to say that we don't even need the men because there's a program running. You see women's retreats all the time. People have asked me before, do you do women's only retreats? And I was like, well, obviously not. Okay. I mean, maybe that's how you would see it, but no, I don't. And I don't support that either because while I support the womb work and your yoni eggs and all your steaming and all that, and I'm being funny, I because I respect it so much and I understand there's something sacred about joining in sisterhood. I often feel left out. So there is a wound around me feeling left out from the witch circle, or they're all going to go have a sleepover, but I had to go home when I didn't, I wasn't even into them. It was
Yeah,
weird.
I was just gonna say, I think it would be feel amazing to us, and I think it would feel amazing to them too. And actually, I wasn't gonna share this, but I think it's actually really relevant. And Nicole, you don't know this, but Christette, I'm going to spend an evening with an old boyfriend in a completely friendship way tomorrow night, and he has been a sex worker and been on like used by women, um, not in that, in two different ways, but and also gotten in legal trouble from women. And he's like this really gentle soul. And we've been trying to get together for like a year, and something keeps stopping us. And I was feeling like finally I can go. I'm kind of glad because I don't know that I would have been able to be just friend zone because of my own healing that I was doing. And I'm really excited to show him like that's not what I'm looking for. I just want to like hang out and look at the stars and talk about the universe. And
Yeah.
but I think I don't know that he's ever experienced that either. Like true love. Like I love him and I don't want anything from him, and I don't want to sleep with him.
Yeah. It's like
And
yesterday
I
when I
hope he
said,
feels the same. I feel the same from him. I'm a little nervous about that. This is going to push me.
yeah, yeah, but it sounds like you're trying to show up and be a safe feminine energy or even safe masculine. It feels like you have capacity to hold him in certain ways, energetically, maybe not physically, that feels masculine, that he can heal some of those feminine wounds within. It's like the two spirits, the Aquarius energies, the energies we're moving into. It's how many more times are you going to identify with being Latin, white, black, male, female, upper class, middle class, until you identify with being source, until you identify with being pure light? I see everyone in all their colors. I see it and I appreciate it. But also, the constant identifying does cause separation to happen. So someone has to bring into the field, you all have masculine energy too, and maybe it's masculine energies within you that are wounded, that are drawing wounded masculine to you. That's one story we could say that is causing this to happen. So you showing up as a safe energy for him is going to yield that back because you never did that intentionally. Nothing ever called you to do that intentionally before. And Nicole, I feel, you know, when you were crying yesterday, I could feel you being yearning for a brother energy, yearning for feeling. Of course, Greg protects me, your partner. I'm sorry for saying his name. It was like just popped out. Um, but your partner, of course, he's got me. But why is it I have you and then everyone else in my life is a woman? Why can't there be men there that are, it's never weird. They never make it weird. And I know they have you all. I know that you all have been tried to be friends with them and then they want to take you out on a date and they send something corny in a message and you go, okay, here it is. Here's where they start to do that thing. I know they've done it. Okay. And guys are like little roosters walking around sometimes. Testosterone just can tend to be like that in certain regards, but there is a program running around your all's bodies, how aggressive they are, the sexual abuse and taking advantage of the feminine energy, even just from a size perspective. It's very animalistic. I'm bigger than you, so I can be intimidating, and that's something you all have to factor in. Like when I walk into a room, I have to factor in, are people going to know I've had clients before not want to work with me because I'm gay, because I'm going to go to hell. I'm like, you all still exist? Those types of like Christian or religious people still exist? That's crazy to me. So, when a black person walks into a room and are people going to see me for me, or are they going to see me as the black person? And that's a real experience that we want to honor. But we also have to be the ones that walk into the room anyway and prove people wrong and show up and do that work. And the way you moved through it, Nicole, was really beautiful. And whether you come to the retreat or not, the moment of it can be this way. When I asked you, what would it feel like? And can men be safe? Like Kendra, have you encountered other safe masculine energy other than Troy and myself and your partner?
Yeah, ever since that retreat, I have. And I'm pretty good at spotting them now.
Yeah,
Just like Nicole, what you were saying, it's an energy thing. I went to another ceremony that had a lot of men, and I could pretty quickly identify which ones were the safe ones, and actually but ended up being the people, kind of like my go-to people during that experience, over women as a pillar of safety. So yeah, I think I think as soon as I healed that, that's when they started coming
me
in.
too. Me too. I
Yeah.
started getting guy clients, and if when a guy client, I've worked with guy clients privately even. I remember my first private retreat with a 50-year-old man, straight guy, one of my good clients' husband. And it was awesome. I mean, I love working with male energy. It's can be different, but when they want to go there, um, they allow me to push, and it doesn't trigger them the same way. So I can just fully be that frequency and that code of digging deeper and pushing. And I can say I went into it feeling weird. I'm going to be with this guy for 4 days. You know, I wish he was a woman. I remember thinking that. This is 3 years ago. I wish it was a woman. I would feel just more free, more like I can be myself, like I can be weird and do my light language, and you're not going to make fun of me. He was never going to, but it showed up. See, even as practitioners, the medicine and our own healing work is going to constantly bring up our own stuff, little flakes of dead skin that still need to be sloughed off. And I even after that experience, I was like, I want to work with more men because I love it. I mean, and that's huge because I always thought I was never going to, that I would work only with women, and that can be my angle. As weird as that sounds, I wouldn't be doing a yoni egg class for you all, but not that I haven't tried. I'm kidding. Um, but I really want to reiterate or emphasize the fact that it could have gone a totally different way. And it was such a short experience. The experiences I've had with these men, like it was like a 30-minute experience with that guy holding me that one time. And it was like a new domino effect. It feels like it just sends you on a totally different trajectory. And so yesterday, that's why I said to Nicole, I want that for you. I also, because she's someone Nicole, you're someone, both of you, that I look at as if they ever did need me to help them tap into a code or, work through a block in their business or step more into their role as a new earth leader. That's my mission and that's my honor to do that for them. And I see them as that. So I also was sitting with, oh gosh, how can we open up her energy to these beautiful men coming in and working with her? you know so that when a man books with you, you don't go no, and give them a refund,
Sir.
because that's, and even right now I want you to feel like, what would that feel like? And then what if they came, and what if it was one of your most favorite client experiences you've ever had, like some of these guys have been for me? So sit with that possibility, not how do we get there from here? No, just sit with it. What would it be like if you didn't feel negative or it didn't trigger you? Would it feel free? Would it feel powerful? Would you feel like, wow, I have a whole new customer base I can pull in this way energetically? Because I'm not blocked in any way. There are many feminine practitioners that when I enter their field, I've had to ask them, hey, I feel called to your experience, but it says women's only, and I have been told I can't come. And I said, if you all are doing yoni steams or doing anything like that, I can, and they said, we're not doing anything like that. We just don't want men in our space. And I said, well, I don't identify that way. And I was told one time, you have a beard, you're a man. So I honor that because I have to. But I could feel even right then it didn't matter. We want to make sure that the women who are paying money to come to this retreat come. we're not even going to take this chance. So I'm telling the world and you all, I'm willing to take that chance. I'm willing to bring safe masculine in to create huge portals of expansion and healing, risking someone who I love dearly and I would love to work with in journey not coming to my retreat. It was like, how do I want to heal the world, but also we have to honor that everyone is where they are in their process. And Nicole, I honored where you were, but I also felt the desire for it not to be a thing at all. Why did this have to be a thing at all? So if you want
Yeah.
to speak a little bit more about that, I would love to hear.
Yeah, definitely. I really, so bringing it back to the energetics, even with the retreat itself being centered around abundance, for me, I recognize that need to address, to literally look in the eye, this masculine energy, it goes right back to the heart of that need to be able to have a container if we want to hold abundance. And so if I can't feel comfortable around that masculine energy, around that energy that is the container, then how am I going to feel comfortable tapping into my own masculine energy and being that container for the abundance that I want to hold?
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, that is where the medicine is in in this in this scenario. And we can go in so many directions because the interpersonal dynamics between men and women and the trauma and the,
Thousands of
even,
years of this.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, even, with I was telling you yesterday, I've had male clients. I didn't start out not
Right.
wanting to work with male clients. And after having male clients who,
Crossed boundaries.
yeah, and that caused me to subsequently not want to, and it pushed me more towards wanting to only work with women. So that's a journey. It's a journey. And
I think there's a
e-
lot of female practitioners out there like yourself, Nicole, who may hear this, who are like, yeah, I only work with women, and I thought that was me being in my power, but maybe actually I'm only doing that because that's what feels safe. And how are we going to get to the point of, I think keeping everything so separated is what perpetuates not only the separation, but the alienation between the two and the um, like in the Victorian times, if you showed your neck or your ankles, it was risque because they were so covered up, it caused sexual feelings when someone saw someone's ankle, okay? Because they were so suppressed. So I think on one end, even keeping us so separate from each other and so you're not safe, I don't want you to see my body, almost makes it more desirable to the dark masculine energy, okay? And that's also in the program. The programs that we're running on the planet right now, they're thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, and they're very intelligent programs that were designed to turn us against each other, give us different languages, make us alienate from each other. And you're not blaming reptilians for any of this, you're blaming men. Because it's men who are doing all of this, but what if it's mind control? What if it's a program that's running through them? And so they've got us turned in on each other and it's working. And so when I hear you all going, I don't want to go to the retreat with the guy, I'm like, what if he's safe and you heal forever from it and you unlock more of that code that unravels the separation between the masculine and feminine because you all are creatrix or creatrices, if that's how you would say that, multiple creatrix energies. You all have the power to really instruct or create that new masculine pillar or to bring that into existence. But how can it be a pillar if there's nothing to walk around it, wrap around it, climb up it? So you all are the missing key in the safety reestablishment of the divine masculine. And we're refusing that. And so I think this conversation is brave. You all, Kendra, what you did by coming to the retreat and facing that was brave. And we know the universe rewards bravery, but in the moment, sometimes we listen to our nervous system, which is saying, don't go. Okay. And you didn't. So it took bravery. And so you all are being asked to tap into your masculine energy to heal the masculine too. And you
That's
know,
what I would say. I think it's sorry to cut you off, but I
oh,
think
please do.
saying we're separate from each other, I think the intention is really to keep us separate from
Absolutely.
ourselves. And it has nothing to do with the other. And, ultimately, when people say, oh, I can't be myself around men, because I hear that a lot,
Me too.
you're just, I actually feel most like myself once I healed that, because now I can access that part of myself that I was trying to deny.
Yeah. Yeah. And Nicole, we were talking about money yesterday because it comes up. And I said the energy of money is neutral. There's masculine and feminine qualities, as there is with everything, but it has a very masculine energy in certain regards, especially the way we work with it. And so, if you're afraid of bearing it all to masculine energy, how is that showing up for you in your relationship with your body, in your relationship with money, in your relationship with business, which is very Saturnian or Capricornian, which can have a masculine energy to it? The structures you're building in your life? What if letting a man hold you in 2025 domino effects into having a multi-million dollar empire simply because you feel safe to have that? And that it started with that foundation piece. And so I tell people all the time there's a big picture here when you come and do this work as well, because the masculine and feminine principles are at the very basis. It's our DNA, it's our masculine and femininity, it's our humanness. Those are our bases of existence and our foundation. And so, are we letting ourselves be human? Are we harmonizing the masculine and feminine within? Are we tapping into our soul rather than tapping into more identity? I'm a this, I'm a this, I'm this, I'm this color, I'm this gender, I'm this, all of it. So, before we go, I would love for you all to share anything else that's on your heart around this, because I may even put this on my podcast. How do you all feel about that?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, beautiful. Because I mean, I thought this would be a 20-minute conversation. It's been over an hour, so I'm like, let's just put it on the podcast. Ascend. This is how we ascend. This is a perfect topic for Ascend the Matrix. So, anything else you all feel like sharing before we go? Because I have so much more to say. So this might have to
I
be.
know.
There's so
Yeah.
much I want to say about it, but I
I
feel like we
yeah.
really covered how possible it is to heal this and the benefits of healing it, but also what it looks like when you are healing it and in the middle of it, and from multiple sides. So please, anyone share what's on your heart.
I think that what Kendra said, sorry, as far as, that divine union within, essentially, and that all of this outwardly is really just a reflection of what we have to heal inwardly with, reconciling our own masculine and feminine energy. And to that end, I would not let any other being of any gender keep me from what I know is best for me and any experience that I know is best for me. That's my own resolve, my own manifestor, Aries moon.
Sovereignty, yeah.
You're not going to get in the way of what I need,
Yeah,
right?
right.
The flip of that I would say is just like I have to ultimately take responsibility for my own healing and reconciling my energy. There is a degree of response, not a degree, not a degree. The masculine has to be responsible as well. And it's not our responsibility to do their work for them. So
Absolutely.
in order for the feminine to feel safe, there's reasons why we don't feel safe. There's reasons why Kendra didn't feel safe, why Chrys, you don't feel safe. This didn't just come out of thin air.
Hmm.
And it's not my or your or Kendra, it's not anybody else's responsibility to say, hey, come show me you're safe. Come on, you can do it. They have to step up on their end. And that is a whole other conversation where the
Yeah.
divine masculine really needs to
So
come
when
along on their end.
I tell people when I have my cacao ceremonies all the time, I'm like, when there's a guy in the space, we all sort of like give praise to him. Thank you for being here because there's one or two of them, and you all are missing. We really need you all. Thank you for being here. I always do that, and we always celebrate that they're there. And so what I just like what I said to you yesterday, Nicole, is there's someone who wants to step up and hold space and be the safe masculine and do the work and show what it looks like to be that 5D pillar of safe masculine strength and solidity. And he wants to do that. And you were not letting it happen because you were in your moment. Okay. And you also weren't seeing it that way either. It was just a guy coming to the retreat. I don't know him. It wasn't, oh, this is a guy who's doing the thing that I just said they need to be doing. He's taking responsibility and stepping up and coming and doing it. These guys, when they step into the healing space, they're not all perfect, but in my experience, they have been one or two out of the whole group. And so imagine what they feel, you all, being in a group full of all of these women. He probably does find some of you attractive and doesn't want you to feel unsafe because he can't control it. He just sees you as attractive. And so I've had guys even be weird with group exercises because they're like, I don't want them to be uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so safe for how much you care about this. Because even for me, having guys in the space, I'm attracted to males mostly, and we're masculine energy mostly. And so I've had men in the space where I've had to have my hands on them and pulling their legs and rubbing their hands. And I never felt like I was having to hide some weird attraction to them. Even if I did find them attractive, it turned off. I went into total facilitator mode and into space holding mode. So I know it's possible. And I've been around them where they have not been attracted or anything. They were worried you all would feel that way because they know. Even they.
And that's valid. That's valid, you
Yeah, so
know.
I want you all to know you all are what gives them the when you got to get in the ring to practice your boxing steps and your punches and everything. You all are the ones that give them the storm for them to hold. You know, the soil for the creation to grow in. You all let them be the pot. That's why I was saying yesterday they can't do it without you all. They can't do it. None of us can do this without gender neutral people too. Okay, so there is a program running right now. There's a trans program. There's all kinds of mind control programs around gender, but generally there is a third gender. There is something that lives in between. We're missing these codes, and we have to step up and be the pioneers and let them do their thing. So just know there are men out there that are safe. There are men that are beyond safe, and there are ones that are stepping up and doing the work and wanting to come to the retreat and be with you all and witness you all and then go back and be with their wife. It is possible. You've been around it. I've been around it many times. I am that. So I am I have been so, I feel like I'm 70% woman on the inside, 30% man, but because my body is male, it turns into a 50-50 thing. Okay? I don't feel trapped in a male body, but I feel like a butch woman. That's what I feel like. In Atlanta they would call it a lesbian, okay? And I feel like if I really could nail it down, that's how I feel, is like a very masculine woman. It's interesting. Again, it's hard to describe some of these things. So we all have our angles that we come at it with. And so for years, I tried to be over masculine to hide that gay part of me or that feminine part of me. And then when I finally let that go, I let her out completely. You know, I didn't go dress up in drag, but I would do that now. How fun. None of that bothers me anymore. I don't care what people think, and if it feels right to me, it feels right. But then I realized that I was siphoning myself off from the true masculine within me because I was trying to be this toxic masculine thing back then. So when the feminine came out, I flipped my mattress, was able to be a storm, was able to really express myself in that way, and then he came back online, the real him, and locked in, and grandfather helped me do that specifically. And now there's this when men talk about women a certain way, I get angry. But when women talk about men a certain way, I get angry. I'm like, okay, I've fully locked in what this is because I'm not angry at you all. I'm angry at how you can't see what I see over here just because they're a man or because they have tattoos or if they're from this place or they look like this. So, as a dual gender person, it is our place and it is our divine honor to be a mediator between the two. And not everyone wants to have that conversation. So, I appreciate you all being on here with me and letting me witness you all because it doesn't feel good when women make me feel like I don't get where they're coming from. Because in so many ways, I do, and I know that I do. And they can use my facial hair against me, and they have. So just know you're so witnessed here and understood and seen because what you all are doing and having this conversation because it's really cool right now to have your, vagina monologue moon circles. It's the cool thing. Leave them out because they're the patriarchy. So we should leave them out. We should give them a taste of their own medicine. That doesn't sound like 5D. It sounds like revenge, and it sounds like the pendulum swing, which is what the matrix does from patriarchy to matriarchy, and we're not supposed to have either one. It's supposed to be a unified organism. And do I see women being in more roles of power in the future? Yes, because I actually feel like men don't really want to do all of that. Women actually have the ability to lead in certain ways that men don't even really want to have to. Maybe that's why they're so angry and abusive sometimes because they are being put in the role of being the aggressor when actually the feminine is the force that comes in. Don't you see the program? The matrix inverts all symbols, inverts all truths, and inverts principles of nature, organic matrix. It will invert it. So the masculine is the aggressor and the pusher, and the feminine is soft and submissive. How come when we work with Grandfather Cactus, he's sitting in his chair comfortably waiting for you, smoking a pipe, rocking? Whenever you're ready, come over here. Like my Bawbaw, my mom's dad, just always waiting patiently. And then my mom's mother, Grandmother Aya herself, she would grab butcher knives and wave them around in the air, saying she was going to spank us with it if we didn't do what she asked. Yeah, you'd hear it going. I thought, now that's feminine, ferocious, collie energy right there, and she was. So I watched, even in cats, you all, like the female cats are the rare, okay? So there's beauty in that. That's not supposed to be a bad thing. It's not supposed to be scary either. It's just what feminine energy is. It's force. It's there's so much power in it. That Kali and Lilith energy and those goddesses. It shouldn't be feared. It should be seen as powerful and protected. Because, just like a bomb that could, set off and destroy the whole planet, we keep them in underground bunkers and vaults, and the masculine is the vault that you all are not supposed to be trapped in. Their feminine is imprisoned by the masculine right now instead of protected by it. But don't you see how it's like one pendulum, it's like one perspective away from that. It's just one paradigm shift away from these aren't bars. This is protective glass because I'm $1 million diamond and we need bulletproof glass because people want this. Okay, it's an energy that people want. And so I feel you all stepping into this and being brave is allowing anyone listening to sit with some emotions or some of their own process around, why do I only focus on divine feminine energy? Why do I feel just because I'm in a female body that divine feminine is the direction to go, and I'm going to completely ignore sometimes the sacred masculine and not even bring it into the space. That's just what guys do. You all can go beat your chests and roar and hold each other when you release emotions. We're doing this thing over here. And I think there's beauty into the men's retreats and the women's retreat. I really do. But as a dual gender person, I can tell you I used to would have felt more comfortable at the women's only retreat, but not so much anymore. I would feel more comfortable in certain ways with just the guys, but something would be missing in both. So, next episode will be, where is our place in that? Where do we fit in? Because just as you all would feel uncomfortable at an all male retreat, I would have similar weirdness. Where are my ladies? Where's my sisters?
I
Okay.
would like to orchestrate I don't know if you're allowed to do this in a politically correct way, but a perfect balance someday, a retreat with it.
I agree. All of my retreats, I say we are open for male identifying, female identifying, and gender neutral people of all kinds. I think that I've even had retreats where I've had non-binary people where they announced themselves as they and them, and that triggered other people in the group. I shouldn't have to, think about how I refer to somebody all the time. And I'm like, so being a zombie is what you're choosing. Yes? Because it's just a matter of respect and just, can you just try it? So don't you see that brought something into their pot of soup that would have never been there before? That flavor had not been there. And that awakens something in people. It doesn't matter if it feels negative in the moment. It's about awakening right now. It's about bringing things to life. So thank you all for joining me. I appreciate your time. Is there anything else you all want to say before we go? Anything spirit wants to channel through you?
No, just I'm excited for all I see it clearly all coming together, and the little bits that we do on ourselves is gonna make that happen. I'm super excited.
Me too. Nicole?
Just it's a journey, and wherever we are in that journey, wherever anyone is in that journey, to have compassion for themselves. And once you do that, then it's much easier to have compassion for the other.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That was beautiful. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for listening to this whole process this was really kind of a private conversation that we opened the doors to the world to, and just wanted to give a inside look at people who are healers and have been on the healing path for a long time, what it looks like when we are triggered and when we're moving through themes that aren't usual and aren't being focused on as much in the collective. So thank you all for doing that. And thank you all for joining us for Us in the Matrix podcast. We'll see you next time.